students who slept with a teacher. How did it start and how did it turn out? When I was a senior in high school, I was a member of a club. We went to state for a competition and won, which got us into nationals. Nationals was during the summer, so technically I wasn't a student anymore and was in California. On the last day my room phone rang. It was the teacher who had been hosting our trip. I had known her for 4 years and she was my favorite teacher. She asked me to come over to her room. I went over there and surprisingly, to me at least, she tried to kiss me. It was so out of left field from me. She could tell that I wasn't into it and she apologized and that was the end of it. As a side note, she had lost her husband a couple of years before and he and I had the same first name, so I actually think this was some kind of transference. Friend of a friend in high school dated the percussion teacher, 45 years old, her senior year. Several of our late night parties, lock-ins, post-competition celebrations, holiday parties, etc. had those two mysteriously missing. They both denied anything the whole year, but everybody knew. His office was always locked at lunch and she wasn't anywhere to be found. End of the year rolls around, she turns 18, admits they're dating, he quits his job, has his license revoked and is fired. She goes off to college and is determined to make the long distance thing work. He divorces his pregnant wife and young daughter to make the long distance thing work. 4 years later, they've split up and she's now engaged to another 40-plus-year-old man. Nobody will talk to her anymore due to the way she treated everyone while they were dating. She's trying to rebuild the bridges she burned, but nobody wants to meet her halfway on it. Went to a college where all the professors were very close with the students, would eat in our dining hall, had offices in our dorm buildings, and would have many events to promote relationship building between faculty and students. We also had a mandatory boot camp-ish class that was capped at 20 students, so naturally we got to know many of our professors well. I had that class with a lot of girls on my hall and we were all obsessed with our professor. He was attractive, but mostly he was hot because of his voice, how he spoke to people, and how intelligent he was. Naturally, he was just a smooth guy. We would go to office hours all the time and I had friends jokingly bring condoms with them sometimes in hopes that something would happen. Nothing ever did. I stayed in touch with him throughout undergrad and saw him around campus often. Then, one day, post-graduation, I was feeling particularly brave and I sent him a message on Facebook to meet up for a drink and that I needed to pick his brain about something. I fully intended to make a move, but wimped out. When I got home I continued messaging him and started flirting hard. We basically came to the consensus that we both wanted to have sex but that we needed to keep it quiet. Our school had just had a huge scandal of professors sleeping with students. The next night I went to his place and basically jumped him. We had super hot sex. We are still in touch but it only happened the one time. I've kept my end of the bargain by not talking about it, but it's incredibly hard not to brag to undergrad girlfriends who also all wanted to bang him. TLDR, had a hot professor, messaged him after graduation, fricked. More than likely he was banging other students too. And no one else is bragging about it either because he told them to keep it quiet. Wink wink. My best friend started dating our lecturer in our final year of college. The age gap was 29 years. After she was done studying, they moved in together and she also started working in the same department at the college as he did. They lived together for 4 years and worked together all that time. Then she left him because he flat out refused to marry her. They still worked together after that, but it was kinda weird. Not me personally, but a friend of mine ended hooking up with his English professor in community. They kept it super low key during the semester and she wasn't giving him special treatment. They're still together today, so it worked out pretty well. It's not a dramatic story, but hey. I was in high school at the time, sophomore, and this was a Spanish teacher I had, and no, she was white. She was in her late 20s and she was very nice and pretty, and since I was really bad at Spanish I would stay after school a lot before practice to have her tutor me. I didn't exactly have the best childhood, and as the tutoring went on over the year she learned more and more about me and vice versa. Then one day after practice I didn't have a ride home and my house was about 10 miles from the school, so she actually offered me a ride home and told me if I ever wanted extra tutoring or to get out of my house then just let her know. One day I took her up on that offer and we actually went out on a few dates, which I was convinced I was really stupid in high school. Weren't actual date but just friends being friends. Things like going out for coffee, movies, dinner, etc. We ended up doing almost everything except for X, mainly because I didn't want to do that until I was married. My senior year when I graduated I moved away for college and kind of separated slowly from her, only messaging her the occasional hello, how are you types of messages. She was an amazing teacher, friend, and someone I cared deeply for. She's now married and I'm about to become married, but I'm sure if we met up it would be like relinking with an old friend. I've never told anyone about this and don't intend to, like a nice little secret I get to keep for myself. Edit. I see my post got a lot of attention surprisingly, so I'll clear some things up. I had friends in high school, but I too was bullied as well. This was also in Ohio, but that's pretty much what I'll say about location since I don't even live near there anymore. I was also a white sheep amongst black ones with my family, as in I believed in a high moral code. I don't anymore, seeing as how I grew up to realize how stupid those were to have as a kid. So no, I didn't believe in X before marriage, or doing drugs, alcohol, or anything of the sort. I was the oldest of my class too, so I was about 16/17 at this time. Also I'll say that a lot of teachers I had were pretty cool. Example, I had this biology teacher who had tattoos on his sleeves and just didn't care but was very open-minded. Lo and behold, this became my favorite class, in which it's what I'm finishing my college degree in now. I just thought this would be a fun little personal experience I could share anonymously. And thanks for all of you that read. I feel really relieved to get this off my chest after so long, and I had a really stress-free day. I never get stories like this because even though my high school had some good looking teachers, to even think of spending time with even the coolest teachers outside of school would have been the lamest possible thing I could think of doing. Like the thought of, oh, I should hang out with M's Jones this weekend, was the high school equivalent of me wanting to spend time with someone from the HR department of my work on a weekend. It's just so lame. I lost my virginity in college to one of my TAs, teacher's assistant. She was a grad student at the time, but several years my senior. We met up one day outside of class at her place, did the deed, and went our separate ways. Never really kept much contact after that besides staying connected through social media. Edit. Sheesh. I had no idea I was going to very publicly announce how I lost my virginity today. I was 18 and she was mid-30s. I had essays to write but no motivation, so began flirting with her in class instead to pass the time. After a while we started texting each other and it just escalated. One day during college we arranged to meet up for fun, and so I got out of my current class by saying I had a dentist appointment, picked her up, she was working a half day, and drove somewhere quiet, which thankfully wasn't far since I live in the country. Good times. In fact, one of the only times I've ever felt completely comfortable around a woman despite her being almost double my age and what we were doing. I felt like the luckiest guy alive to have lived the stereotypical every guy's dream. I returned to class red-faced and sweaty, much to the suspicion of my friends, who asked me if it had been raining on the way to the dentist. We met up a few more times after that and it was a lot of fun. Fast forward a few months and it turns out she's married with children, something she kept damn quiet about. Her husband found out and started texting me saying how he was going to find me, break my legs, knew what I looked like, etc. It's been 7 years now and he hasn't found me yet. I don't talk to my teacher anymore, but we still poke each other on Facebook sometimes. She still has her marriage and I still have my legs, so I look back on it with enjoyment even if it makes me feel guilty in doing so. It was the craziest few months of my life and I can't recall another time where I've felt more alive. Why is it that when a wife cheats the husband always gets mad at the guy sleeping with her and not the actual wife? That never made any sense to me. I posted this on a thread a few years ago, but here. I started sleeping with my professor of the same ex. It turned into an actual relationship, but we didn't want to label it as one because we thought nothing could ever come of it because she's my superior. Anyways, she's a lesbian and in her mid-30s, and decided to get pregnant via sperm donor. When she told me about her decision, she decided it would probably be best that we ended our relationship once she was pregnant. Well, she got pregnant and we ended it, but she became really depressed without me, so she kinda went batch crazy. I took her to therapy and tried my best to ensure she was in the right state of mind to carry a child, but it was just too much. She showed up to my apartment a few times in the middle of the night and once she sexually assaulted me. That's when I lost my sh. I filed a TPO against her and never heard from her again. Was with a history teacher at my school when I was in the 6th form there. He was 25 and I was 18, which made me legal here in the UK. He was a really nice guy and we were FWB for a while, and as far as I know nobody of any great importance at the school ever found out. Hooray, finally a serious question I can answer. First off, I'm from a really small town. Plus I went to a private school in said small town. Like, my graduating class had 28 people in it small. So a week or so before my first day of senior year, I'm at the local grocery store grabbing a few things my mom told me to get. I'm in the canned beans aisle and make eye contact with this really hot guy, but it's weird because it's a small town and I know everyone my age. I say hello and comment on how I'd never seen him around before. He's really shy and says that his family just moved here. We talk for a bit, and talking led to us making out in his car and him feeling me up. Well, I give him my number and tell him to text me sometime. When I get home, I ask my stepsister, same grade as me, if we have any new kids in our grade this year. She says she doesn't think so, but she knows there's a new kid in the 10th grade. I think that must be him. He texts me the next day, just saying that he's the guy from the store yesterday and asking how things are going. He asks if we can meet up tomorrow and I say sure, let's meet up tomorrow night in the park. We meet up in the park and end up fooling around again. He fingers me and I blow him. We text constantly the next few days, then right before I go to bed the night before school starts I text him, ready for school tomorrow. He doesn't reply, but it's kind of late so I just assume he's already asleep. The next day I'm searching for him down the hall and in my electives. I ask my stepbrother, a 9th grader at the time, between classes if he's met the new guy. He says not yet. Then it's break time, where all of the high school gathers into a large room for 15 minutes to just talk and hang out. I think this is definitely the time I'll see him. Sure enough, I do. And he's standing with all of the teachers? Panicked, I text him then stare him down. Seriously, a few seconds after I send him the text, he checks his phone. I text him again. You're a teacher? He checks his phone again. Meet me in the history classroom, he replies. We meet up in the history classroom, his new classroom, and I'm angry, demanding to know why he never told me he was a teacher. He's angry, too, and demanding to know why I never told him I'm a student. He tells me he just graduated from the university in the city, and there weren't a lot of openings for history teachers, so this was the only job he could get. If someone were to find out what happened between us, his career would be shattered before it even began. I feel bad for him and assure him I won't tell on him, so long as he promises to delete my number and never contact me again. Then we go our separate ways. It was awkward every time I saw him, but I kept my word and didn't turn him in. He's a good guy, so I didn't want anything bad to happen to him. As far as I know, he still works there and hasn't had any scandalous relationships with students. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment.